Welcome to the deep dive. So today we have an extraordinary collection of sources in front of us.
We really do.
It's this wild mix of ancient prophecies and really modern geopolitical urgency, and it all seems to be pointing to one specific, pretty startling date, 2026.
And that's really our mission today. We're diving into these claims that humanity is basically ignoring what our sources are calling the biggest discovery that overturns humanity.
Wow.
Yeah. And these documents, they aren't just, predicting the future in some vague way. They're urgently claiming that a massive species-altering secret is being deliberately concealed right now.
Okay, so the foundation for this whole deep dive, it really rests on interpretations of the Tuibe-Tu, the famous back-pushing diagram.
That's the one.
For anyone who might be unfamiliar, this is a classic Chinese text usually credited to the Tang dynasty, and it's kind of notorious for its surprising accuracy in predicting major events over the centuries.
It is. But the narrative we're looking at today it's aggressive, it's investigative. We need to really dissect the claims about specific people, specific locations.
And the really serious accusations.
Exactly. The accusations being leveled against major religious institutions for basically looking the other way.
Deliberately.
That's the claim. The source material is very focused on these controversial modern interpretations, what it calls the shocking Tuibe-Tu. It sees the next few years as this period of global transformation, or maybe more accurately, a disaster mitigation period.
The urgency it's right there from the first page.
It really is. And it's all centered on this one question. If this colossal discovery tied to 2026 is real, why is everyone so indifferent?
Okay, let's unpack that date. It's not vague. It is pinned specifically to 2026. Why would a text that's, over 1,000 years old suddenly point a finger right at this moment?
Well, what's fascinating here is how the source material doesn't just, pull the date from thin air. It grounds it specifically in the architecture of the ancient text itself.
Right.
So to get why 2026 is so significant, we have to look exclusively at what's called the 44th phenomenon, or the 44th sign within the Tuibe-Tu.
Okay, so for a listener who follows these kinds of prophecies, the 44th sign is already a big deal. It's often seen as marking some kind of crucial turning point for East Asia.
Precisely. And according to the analysis in these sources, the 44th sign holds the heavenly secrets. That's the phrase they use.
Yeah.
Regarding the birth and emergence of two incredibly significant spiritual figures.
That's the same.
They call them saints. And the timing that's implied by the iconography, by the symbols in this one specific sign, it aligns, according to this interpretation, exactly with the midpoint of this decade.
If we look at the language, it's famously cryptic, right? It's got all this dense symbolism.
Very.
The source material specifically points to things like 3 threes, 62, the combination of the moon and sun. How does that stuff allegedly point to 2026?
So this is where we move from a generalized prophecy to a very specific chronological claim. The exact numerology is complex. I won't pretend it isn't. But the interpretation argues that the combinations of these numbers,
The 3 threes, the 62.
right, they argue that these numbers act as a kind of cryptographic key that locks the spiritual meaning of the sign to the emergence of these figures right now.
So the ancient poetry isn't just abstract.
Not according to this. It's a direct, time-sensitive signpost pointing toward what they call the Tianji,
The heavenly opportunity.
the heavenly opportunity for salvation.
Okay, so we've got the date, 2026. We have the specific sign, the 44th. That brings us to the main characters themselves, these two saints who are supposedly emerging to guide humanity. The sources name them as the Maitreya, the future Buddha, and the Ming Wang.
And these are monumental figures. The idea of them arriving at the same time carries immense weight in these spiritual traditions.
And the emergence of the Ming Wang, in particular, is given a very specific location in these documents, which is where things get, really interesting.
And very focused. The sources claim that the appearance of these saints is the necessary cure, the remedy for a world that's basically heading toward ruin.
So tell us about the Ming Wang, the Radiant King. What's the specific modern geographic claim the source makes, the one that pulls this out of mythology and into our reality?
The documents are surprisingly clear here. And this is the detail that really challenges modern expectations. They specify that the young saint's birth occurs in Taiwan.
Taiwan.
Not a generalized region, not somewhere in the east. Taiwan. A hugely significant geopolitical flashpoint is being named as the location for a world-changing spiritual event.
Wait, hold on a second. We're talking about a prophecy that supposedly sees global disaster? a shift in human consciousness,
Okay.
and the arrival of a savior figure in Taiwan.
That's what it says.
That adds such an enormous layer of political complexity to a spiritual prediction.
Absolutely it does. And the source implicitly challenges us to see that geopolitical specificity as a validation of the prophecy's relevance right now. It's a key detail to stop people from interpreting it vaguely.
And as if that wasn't specific enough, the source includes this really strange, almost mundane detail.
Oh, this part is wild.
It mentions the appearance or the shape of this young person's bookshelf. We're going from cosmic symbolism all the way down to furniture layout. In Taiwan.
I know, and it raises a huge question. Why would a prophecy about saving humanity care about the shape of a bookshelf?
Right.
The source is interpreted as a kind of a deliberate cryptographic mechanism. It's not just a descriptive detail, it's a literal signpost.
So it's either highly symbolic.
Right, maybe representing the structured knowledge they hold, or it's an ultra-specific verification lock, a detail for the skeptic.
I see. It's almost like a test. The prophecy is saying, if you really want to know who the Ming Wang is, here's a visual clue so unique and so mundane it can't be faked.
Exactly. It's designed to protect the secret from everyone except those who are meant to find it.
And it forces verification outside of the established traditional religious channels.
Which ties directly into the next and kind of darker layer of this whole thing. The reason the saints are supposedly showing up now.
The looming global crisis.
Yes. That urgency is defined by a very stark phrase. Humanity is heading toward extinction.
So the saints are an intervention, a necessary one, during a period of immense self-inflicted danger.
The whole warning is deeply apocalyptic. It argues that humanity is currently heading toward extinction. That's the literal translation. And the text drives this home by asking the reader a direct question.
What's the question?
How much time does humanity have left while heading toward extinction?
That is a powerful challenge. If this transformation, this disaster mitigation period is really coming, if the clock is ticking to 2026, then being indifferent isn't just ignorance. It's self-destructive.
That's the pressure point. The urgency here is that we're not waiting for some vague future event. We're on a critical, short deadline.
Which makes paying attention to the signs, the 2026 timeline, the location in Taiwan, the two saints, absolutely vital.
And this is precisely where the source unleashes its sharpest critique.
Which brings us to the most controversial part of this material. The condemnation of established modern religious institutions. The sources claim that religious figures in Taiwan, the very epicenter of the Ming Wang's supposed arrival, dare not face the prophetic truth.
This is where it shifts from interpreting ancient texts to just outright social and spiritual accusation. And it targets almost the entire spiritual establishment all at once.
It's pretty systematic.
Well, totally. The source criticizes all the religious groups it mentions. Buddhist, Taoist, Christian, Catholic, Equan, Tao, and even various new emerging religions. The critique is comprehensive. It basically argues that these institutions have failed in their most fundamental duty.
And the language it uses to describe their leaders it's just scathing. They're described as numb.
Numb. And showing pretended ignorance and disdain toward these ancient prophecies. It suggests a kind of systemic spiritual blindness.
It's framed as a profound spiritual failure, isn't it? A sin of omission.
A great sin is the term used. The source says they're failing to take the predictions of their own traditions seriously, the ancient holy sages and immortals, and that this indifference, this failure to relay the warnings, is a great sin.
But the source doesn't just stop at indifference, it goes further. It suggests there's active concealment happening.
Correct. The ultimate transgression is active suppression. If these religious authorities knowingly cover up the truth, the source warns their sin is doubled.
Wow.
The implication is that some leaders might not just be ignorant. They might be actively suppressing this knowledge of the Maitreya and Ming Wang's emergence because it challenges their authority. It challenges their power structure.
So if the established spiritual authorities are supposedly complicit in this cover-up, either through indifference or something worse, what does that mean for you, for the listener who's hearing this now? What's at stake?
The source is very clear on this. It warns that ignoring the predictions of the Zunshi, the master or patriarch, means that followers, and really humanity at large, might lose the opportunity for salvation.
So the consequence is existential.
Completely. It means missing the precise celestial window you need to navigate whatever's coming.
This creates such a unique tension. You've got this ancient, urgent prophecy pointing to 2026, linked to verifiable modern details in Taiwan,
Hmm.
and it's running right up against the alleged willful blindness of the very institutions that are historically tasked with guiding people toward salvation.
What really stands out is the challenge to spiritual authority. These synopses force you to examine not just what future is being predicted, but who benefits from concealing it.
Right.
If the clock is really ticking toward 2026, the question becomes, is your trust in an institution worth potentially missing a life-altering, maybe species-saving choice? Just because the message challenges the status quo.
That is a profound thought. The biggest warning might not be the disaster itself, but the idea that the traditional gatekeepers are, preventing people from finding the key.
The source is essentially forcing a decision. Do you trust the ancient diagram, or do you trust the modern clergy?
And that really leads to the final provocative question that this whole thing leaves us with, doesn't it?
It does. If a specific heavenly secret says a path to salvation is opening right now, centered on these figures in Taiwan, how does any individual distinguish between genuine guidance and potential manipulation?
Especially when the established authorities are allegedly failing their sacred duty.
The challenge is understanding the real weight of these ancient warnings and then figuring out how to act on that understanding, because the clock, after all, is already ticking toward 2026.